Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and this is a special review I'm doing since I got to go see Fathom Events with Turner Classic Movies' 60th anniversary of Vertigo played in theaters last weekend. And I'm going to do a classic review and talk about this film. And I've done some full reviews of films that I hadn't sat in the theater and watched, and they're older films, some not so much older, but I felt like I wanted to stop doing that because it's like you always get distracted when you're sitting at home and you really want to talk about something. Like I did my top 10 films of all time, and those are a little easier to talk about because like they sit so well with me. What I really wanted to do is, and you're going to get more of these because actually I'm seeing Ponyo in theaters today for Fathom Events, the Studio Ghibli series throughout the rest of this year. So you're going to be hearing some reviews from me of these Fathom Events for both Turner Classic Movies and Studio Ghibli. And also, I go to Princeton Garden Theater, and they show a lot of classic films, especially their summer movie series. So I'm excited about all of these and doing some reviews of these. So we're starting off with Vertigo, and Vertigo is personally my favorite Hitchcock film. And Hitchcock is the master of suspense, and this film is not in the same vein of, say, The Birds or Psycho, where it's like horror and tension and stuff like that. This really gets in your head and really goes to dark places and crazy places. And I was actually really disappointed. I was sitting in the theater and the three people behind me kept laughing at things throughout this film, and it was really bothering me. And like one of the people behind me started making comments about. So I'm not going to give a whole lot away, but there's some themes of like abusive relationships and controlling people emotionally and psychologically, and like they started laughing about like, oh, this old-timey movie, like, that stuff's okay. It's like, that's the point. It's not okay. And this film delves deep into controlling nature of relationships and abusive relationships and having control over people and emotionally abusing them. And all these tortured different things that you go throughout this film. I have to say, my one big thing about this film that draws back for me, and especially sitting and watching it in the theater, was it drags a bit. And it's a good 2 hours and 10 minutes, and there's some parts where it's like really milking, like taking its time, especially with the first half of the film, and that took that a bit away from me. But it's still an amazing film, and I absolutely love Vertigo. And Alfred Hitchcock builds so much tension, and there's the technical prowess in this film, and some of these shots, especially the Vertigo shots of pulling the camera back and zooming in at the same exact time and creating that distortion. And I'm afraid of heights, first of all, so I'm just like, I don't like this right from that beginning part, and I'd be freaking the hell out if I was in a situation like that. And this film, like a lot of Hitchcock films, starts somewhere and then goes other places that you don't expect. And this has a very interesting budding romance going on. And honestly, just the dialogue and this thing I do appreciate about this film, it takes its time being able to step back, sit down, have conversations between characters that really just flesh out each other. But then subtly and organically integrate important things. Like we find out that he's this acrophobia and stuff like that in just a conversation with his ex-fling, so Jimmy Stewart plays our main character Scotty, and his ex-fling Barbara Bel Geddes, which I love the performances of the three main characters in this film, Kim Novak as well, but just their interactions between Jimmy Stewart and Barbara Bel Geddes, and it's so interesting and fleshes so many things out, and they have such a complex relationship. and it's very interesting how they interact with each other and where their past has been and how this all fleshes out. And it's such an intriguing story. And I don't want to give too much away, but it's about Jimmy Stewart, who's former cop, can't do it anymore because of his fear of heights, and him being hired as a private investigator to follow around his former classmate's wife, who has been possessed by this spirit of this old tortured soul. And where this film goes is really unexpected. And from a technical standpoint, what Robert Burks, as the cinematographer, is able to do with this film is unbelievable. And the shots that they're able to create mixing matte paintings and actual footage, and then that Vertigo shot, and the people behind me in the theater started laughing at this, but there's an emotional break in this film, and it's so beautifully, creepishly, horrifyingly put together in this crazy dream sequence, and it's an amazing piece of cinema. And I wanted to turn around and tell him to shut up, but I didn't. But it's so well put together and builds so much tension. This was written by Alec Copel and Samuel L. Taylor, and they do a great job of building an intriguing story, dealing with a lot of themes of emotional distress and like a broken human being and losing love and dealing with emotional tragedy and how you cope with that, and very unhealthy ways to cope with stuff like that. And like I mentioned, the abusive relationship ideas. And Bernard Herrmann's score, though, is amazing and haunting and creepy and suspenseful, and there's truly moments there it's completely unsettling, and it's just like, I don't like this. And especially during that sequence that I talked about, it's unbelievably hard to deal with. And the performances here, Jimmy Stewart, honestly, I think this is one of his most interesting performances, and I absolutely loved him in this film. There's one thing that I joke about every time I watch this movie is like, where do you learn how to kiss? And those are important moments throughout the film, but it kind of feels a little awkward. But anyway, that's just my own 2 cents. And Kim Novak is very mysterious and unsettling, honestly, in a lot of scenes in this film. And I think that she does a really good job. I've heard some people say this is their favorite performance of hers. I've also heard some critics say that they weren't big fans of her and wish that somebody else had this role. I honestly buy into her and what she's able to do in this film. This is a masterpiece of psychological thrills, and Hitchcock is the king of suspense. So honestly, I'm giving Vertigo an A. And if it wasn't for the pacing, it would be an A+, but it does lag a bit for me at this point. But please go check out Vertigo. It's its 60th anniversary. Find it somewhere and watch it. And I know Princeton Garden Theater is going to be showing it. I got my newsletter booklet, so I was looking through and seeing what's coming to the theater. And go check that out if you're in the area. And also, Princeton Garden Theater is a great theater. I'm a member, and it's a great place to donate to. Shameless plugs. But go check out Vertigo. It's one of the best. My favorite Hitchcock film.